KCC 311. Welcome to the class. My name is Will Johnson, the professor for this term. Looking forward to it. One of the first of the many videos we'll see through the term. But first video, types of variables. We're talking big data. You need to understand the different types of variables. A good question to know, first of all, is what is a variable? If you got that math anxiety, say, oh, y, solve for x, and all these things, guess what? Here's some good news. Those are not the variables we're going to consider in this class. Instead, this is big data. We're talking about data. We're talking about data that can take on different values. Or another way you can think of it is you can think of data. What is the data measuring? What are we measuring? So if you look at this made-up data set I have on the screen, you can see a couple measurements. The year, this number, a country name. That's the data we're talking about. That's the variables we're talking about. But let's get another more concrete real life. Let's talk about football. Oh, no, not that football. The real football. Let's find statistics and some data about a football game. And why not the Buffalo Bills? That's my team right there. Come on. Let's hear it for LeSean McCoy. Let's talk about the snowy games and the Buffalo weather. Let's hear for the legends. We got Buffalo. Let's get some data on Buffalo Bills and try and understand variables. Oh, by the way, if you give me data like this, I'm going to have a problem because you owe me a title. Summarize that data. They're going to help me right there. And you know what? I still got another problem. You got a summary, but tell me where you got the data. Now I'm with you. Now I can follow your data. A title, a source, I'm with you. Looking at this data about those Buffalo Bills, I'm looking down the vertical side of this data, and I'm seeing 17 entries. I could say that's 17 data points. You could call it 17 observations. If you want to sound mathematical, you could say n equals 17. What else do we have in this data set? We're looking this away across the top horizontally. Those are the variables. That's what the whole point of this exercise is, to understand the variables. But we're going to talk about these variables in terms of the data, in terms of the measurements. So if I'm looking right here, I'd say that data is numerical, or we could call it quantitative. What does that mean? It means those variables up on the top, those are quantitative variables. Another example is right here. These we're going to call qualitative data. Quality is description, the description of the teams. And that means that the op, which stands for opponent, is a qualitative variable. I think you understand very basically what I'm talking about. Numbers, quantitative data, quantitative variables. Descriptions, qualitative variable. And guess what? That means we have now identified the two main types of data, quantitative and qualitative. Okay, good. But guess what? Let's look at this data in a little more detail, and we're going to see a lot more data that we can analyze. For instance, here, that looks like numbers to me, but it's a specific kind of number. It's temporal. In other words, it deals with time. Data that deals with time. But guess what? It doesn't just have to be numbers. It can also be a description. Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, all those sort of things. That is a description, but it's still temporal. So what's that mean? Temporal data, which is a sort of a subtype of data, that could be both quantitative, qualitative, numbers and descriptions. Let's keep going. There's more data in here. Look at those little symbols, those little @ that tells me where they played this football game. The where, if I'm talking about where, I'm talking about geography, geographical data. And guess what? Geographical data we can also talk about in terms of numbers. A zip code in the U.S. tells me where am I talking about. The name, a description, a qualitative data. So geographic data can be quantitative, it can be qualitative. You see how things get more complex in these subcategories of data. We got one more for you. Did you win the football game? Did you lose it? That sounds like a category. Yes or no, win or lose, male or female. You understand the idea. Either or. It could be a description, or look over here. Those numbers could be positive or negative. That's categorical. You got win to loss, you got positive and negative. So what's that mean? Categorical data, once again, it could be numerical, it could be qualitative. You got this complex chain, but when it's all said and done, this is what I want you to know. At the end of the game, I want you to understand these four types. And notice qualitative, I disappeared because qualitative is really broad. I want to focus specifically on these, the temporal, geographical, and categorical aspects of qualitative data. So right now, we've got four types of data, four types of variables, and that is the main goal for this week one in this course, is you need to be able to identify them. You need to be able to identify the numbers, quantitative. You need to be able to identify time, temporal data, geographical, and all the different ways I can talk about where, and categories, either or, positive, negative, win or loss. Those are the four types of data that you need to understand. And for week one's assignment, you could be digging in some data, digging into big data, and you need to be able to identify your data in terms of these words. Check it out on Blackboard, week one assignments, all the discussion board and everything else. Any questions? Shoot me an email. Looking forward to work together in this term.